It happened again. Another historic UFO hearing, and I can't believe what they just told us. Immaculate constellation, UFO factories in our oceans, high definition videos of the non-human technology, confirmation that we have captured and are replicating them, and intentional government disinformation programs that covers it all up.
I'm back, boy, FITTI to the E. And today we're going to be taking a look at these creepy TikTok videos. If you guys like the chain, check the link down in the description. Let's try to get to 2,000 likes this video. It says that 75% of you guys are not subscribed, so make sure to subscribe. This video is also another crazy one, so make sure you watch till the end.
You should always keep your phone charged. A girl named Marissa came home from school at around 3 p.m. She walked in the door and told her mom that some random number kept calling her all day. Her mom told her the person may have the wrong number and just to ignore it. Marissa said okay and begins to do her homework. A couple hours later, she receives a phone call from the same number. Marissa answers it this time and says, "Hello?" The man then says, "We finally found you. Don't worry, bunny." Marissa begins to panic and tells her mom what just happened. Her mom's face goes blank and says, "What did the man just call you?" Marissa says, "He called me bunny." Her mom yells and says, "Grab your stuff, we need to leave." Marissa, confused, packs her things and gets into the red car. Her mom begins driving fast and turns on the radio. The radio says, "The baby named Marissa who was kidnapped in the hospital 10 years ago has been found and police are searching for a red car." Marissa looks at the woman and says, "Who are you?" The woman looks back and says, "You can call me mommy."
That would have to be one of the world's trippiest experiences of all time. Like, imagine someone you think that's your mom and then she tells you, like, listen, you gotta go. First of all, why would they call the girl and tell, like, listen, we're coming to pick you up? Like, she doesn't even know what's going on. She got kidnapped.
Creepy last words people said right before dying. Anna said that her grandfather died from lung cancer. He was fine, but then once he was diagnosed, he deteriorated very quickly. Within a month from his diagnosis, he had passed away. She said that her father took care of him in his room around the clock until the day that he died. During this time period, he would get very focused on the corners of the room. He would stare at them, and then later he would say things like, "Get them away. I see them in the corners. And I see the dark in the corners." Anna said that her and her family would ask what, where, but the only thing he would say was the corner. Anna said that her mother witnessed this and got very frightened. Anna's mother said that what he was seeing was not a good sign and that it could mean that he has many sins. Her mother grew up in a small village where there were many sayings like that. She said that some people usually see their dead relatives when they're dying, but others see some not so good things. Anna thinks that her mother was implying that he was seeing demons.
This is the scary truth behind celebrities. If you ever seen a celebrity do this hand symbol and then place it over their eyes in photos, it's actually not a fun symbol. It actually symbolizes the number 666. And these aren't the only symbols that celebrities express to the public. And it's leading many people to believe that they are doing symbols like this to symbolize their alliance to the Illuminati. This is extremely crazy. But let's be honest, these symbols that they are doing don't look normal at all. And it really makes you think why they are doing them.
The Rarest Things in the World, Part 11. The pinstripes on every Rolls Royce since 2003 have been painted by one man named Mark Court. It's the last manufacturing step and can't afford even the slightest mistake, since the paint instantly bonds with the car's body and can't be erased. A Russian girl named Amina is admired for her unusual beauty. She's diagnosed with two rare genetic conditions, albinism, which makes her skin and hair extremely white, and heterochromia, in which her eyes are different colors. Costing around $300 per pound, A5 olive Wagyu beef is the rarest steak in the world. Due to the cow's specialized diet of caramelized olive pulp, the steak gives off hints of olive oil and is very buttery in texture. In 1989 Wisconsin, 7 generations of a family were alive at the same time. The ages of the mothers/daughters were 109, 89, 70, 52, 33, 15, and 1 month. This unbelievable occurrence remains undisputed and stands as a world record to this day.
Look, I get it. I got a platform. I got to watch what I say, even as a joke, whatever. The thing is, I've had an actual hot take that I've been holding on to for way too long. But like, an actual hot take. I'm going to need y'all to hear me out. Just give me a chance. Now, exotic pets are wrong. That's a fat thumbs down. I feel like cheetahs are begging to be tamed. Now listen, I'm not talking house pets. You wouldn't feed them right, there isn't a backyard big enough, they'd be miserable, fat no-no. But the way we weaponize falcons, we could get a lot of mileage out of a feline Ferrari. Cheetahs are probably the most people-safe predators on the planet. I don't know if a cheetah's ever life retired a person, but I know they must have deserved it. And I know you've seen that video of that forest guard culling a family of cheetahs every night. Also think about this, cheetahs aren't even big cats. Big cats are like lions, tigers, leopards, jaguars. Cheetahs are basically overgrown house cats that got thrown into the savannah. It's like taking the best 5th grade basketball player in the world and putting him in the NBA. It's a wild mismatch. They get bullied so bad they literally need emotional support dogs in captivity just to have the confidence to be themselves. So yeah, I think if we had the tools, a cheetah-human duo would go crazy. And F it, another hot take. If cheetahs ever get to that point, I think they're fine right now, but if they ever get close to extinction like they were back in the day, we really could just airdrop them to Australia. And I know most things in Australia eventually become a problem, and every time we try to play God we get burned, but it'd really be them and dingoes, and cheetahs would probably nerf the rabbit problem and keep kangaroos humble. But yeah, if there's a wild animal humanity wants to collab with next, please let it be cheetahs.
I don't know if you guys ever been around a cheetah, but they're fairly friendly sometimes. The one dude that was cuddling them though, I don't know, that's a stretch to me. Like, I don't know why I would be sleeping with a family of cheetahs, but you know, to each their own.
Crazy facts you won't believe. Humans share 50% of their DNA with bananas. There's a planet made of diamonds in our galaxy. There's more stars in the universe than grains of sand on every place in Earth. Bananas are berries, but strawberries aren't.
A few months ago, we talked about this terror that's at Disneyland, where you go in a boat and through Monstro's mouth and you can see the top of its mouth with all of its veins in its mouth, and it's terrifying. But have you ever seen the animatronic one that's at Disneyland Paris? Because there's a ride called Pinocchio's Daring Journey in Disneyland Paris, and this gigantic animatronic whale, Monstro, pops out at you. I would crap myself. This picture is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my entire life, where the lights are on and you can see what it looks like before it pops out. Am I the only one extremely creeped out by this picture in particular? Here's another picture of the lights kind of on, where it's in this enclave. Ugh. Why is it giving Little Shop of Horrors? But this is where it looks like in the complete darkness. Whew. So yeah, watch this. Would you ever go on this ride? Have you ever gone on this ride? Are you scared of whales as well? Watch this. Let me know how you're feeling.
I never did that ride, but I would definitely try it. I feel like it would really be a nice experience, if I'm being honest. If you ever tried that ride in Disney, let me know your experience down in the comments.
24-year-old mukbanger just died after her stomach ripped open on live stream. This was also a 10-hour live stream. It was very lengthy, and she was consuming a lot of things: cake, chicken, everything, you name it. She was a Chinese woman by the name of Pan Xiaoting. She died last week from a stomach rupture on the live stream after consuming over 15 pounds of food. The autopsy report suggested that her stomach literally ripped open because there was a lot of undigested food in there and the stomach was distended. This was not the first incident either. She was hospitalized a few months ago for her stomach bleeding for the same thing, eating a lot of food on a live stream. And it's sad too, because even her parents are begging her to stop. But a lot of mukbang culture has become a little toxic. The more outrageous it gets, the more viewers, these people get, and the more money they make. It kind of incentivizes them to destroy their bodies in this way. I really feel for this young girl and her family. It's just so sad. Hopefully other mukbangers see this and they take this as like a warning. Just be more careful. Your stomach can literally rupture. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
Dude, I wonder what that felt like. Like, you know what I'm saying? You're eating a lot. Does it feel like your stomach's just expanding and then you just like how does it feel when your stomach rupture?
Hello? It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Oh my god! What the is that?
Imagine going to the gym and never leaving, y'all. This is absolutely heartbreaking. So a man named Brian Sink, I believe that's his name, that from what I've looked into, lost his life inside of one of the tanning beds in a Planet Fitness and stayed there for almost 2 days, y'all. They weren't able to even locate this man or even know this man was missing. Now, according to what I looked into, he went to the gym around the time, I guess, they were closed, and had used the tanning room And at the time that they had closed up, for whatever reason, they had not realized he was still in there and occupying that area, and no one might have checked. I don't know. All I know that there was reports in Indiana at a Planet Fitness, it's the exact location right here, that a man was found deceased inside of a tanning bed, like one of those long, you know, rectangular like tanning beds, and they are still trying to figure out how he managed to get stuck in there. Y'all, be careful with everything going on in this world. Someone just got stuck in a Tesla. Please be safe and careful when you go places.
That's scary. Getting stuck in a tanning bed? Getting stuck in a Tesla is also kind of scary, but like a tanning bed? You know how like narrow those are? That's like claustrophobia to the max.
So the case of the female Hannibal Lecter is hands down the most shocking I've ever encountered, and I've seen a lot. The worst is what happened to her final romantic partner. Now, she had an intention to seek revenge on this man because he had left her, and again, she has this pervasive feeling that she needs to control everything around her, including him, so what she did was a true horror story. And if you do want additional details on this, we have an entire episode on the case. Basically, he didn't show up for work, and a lot of people at his work, they knew that Catherine was a violent problem in his life, so police were sent to his home. And this is what they found. Catherine had knifed through his body upwards of 37 times. She then skinned him and hung the skin up in the foyer, and then she hoisted up the body, removed the head, propped him up in an armchair, like positioned him and posed him, and then police were wondering, you know, where's the head? Where did she take the head? They go into the kitchen. She was boiling it. He had spent hours cooking all these ingredients from his body with the intention that when his daughters came home, they would walk in, see their dad's skin hanging up in the entrance of the home, see his body hoisted up in the chair, and then she would force them to eat their dad.
What did he do to make her that mad, dude? So like, if you react out of emotion, you hurt someone, initially it's gonna be like, okay, all right, I just messed up. What the hell did I just do? But she purposely hurt this dude, skinned him, and boiled him to feed him to her.
I'm telling you, doing night security, it's gotta be one of the scariest jobs. Okay, so this photo right here, this was captured by Michael Hostin on the 3rd floor bathroom of a Dallas shopping mall. The reason he took it was because he's night security and he heard noises coming from this bathroom, but he was nervous to check the actual stalls, so he sends a picture to his coworker. After he sent the picture, he eventually leaves the bathroom, but then gets a text where his coworker says, "Keep your weapon drawn and call for backup." He had no idea what he was talking about until he increased the brightness of this picture. It's not easy to see in the dark, but with the photo enhanced and slightly brightened, you can see somebody peeking over the top of that middle stall. Someone was in there, looking directly at him as he searched the bathroom. But even with a visual, by the time backup eventually came, whoever this was, they were gone, and we were left with this picture.
There's so many flies in there. So, we found this abandoned house. And there's just flies. We wanted to go inside, but now we're like scared to go inside. They're in every single window and they're like alive. But you see that up there? You see all the flies? This. They're like blankets and clothes. Mineral spirits? Very, very scary.
Let's talk about one of the most craziest documented mermaid cases in history. When I tell y'all this whole thing is wild because it's actually documented. Now, this took place in the Kai Islands during 1943 during World War II. And basically, these Japanese soldiers were stationed with a surveillance team in this small remote island in Indonesia, which is known as the Kai Islands, and they reported seeing some strange stuff, y'all. And every time they seen these creatures, it was near the water. And these are Japanese soldiers we're talking about, y'all. And they were saying that they were seeing these mer-like beings around 150 centimeters tall and having like a pinkish skin, as well as like prominent spines on their heads. But they said unlike the classical mermaids, they didn't have fishtails. And it was also stated that they had like rows of like these sharp catty-like teeth. And the soldiers said that the faces was not cute at all, not like the mermaids we're used to. They had like human-like, ape-like features and spines along the neck and a lipless mouth with tiny little sharp teeth and shoulder-length hair. Basically, like, the Japanese soldiers was like asking the locals and the indigenous people of the Kai Islands, like, what is this? Like, what is going on? Is this normal? And they were very familiar with these creatures. And excuse me if I pronounced it wrong, but they called them Irangi Khan or something like that, which basically means manfish or mermaid. So these Japanese soldiers think they were tripping, but this whole time the people already knew about it and they live amongst them. Like, they're just used to it at this point. And they've been spotting them all over the beaches and the lagoons for years. And it was one night, one of the soldiers was on the beach at night and he thought it was a child, but he was like, that's weird for a child to be, you know, out here by himself on the beach. Until the creature turned around and he could see in the moonlight the facial features. And when the creature basically noticed that the soldier was watching the whole time, he turned around and looked at him and just dived right in the water and did not resurface ever. So these soldiers were just so scared and like basically being harassed by these creatures to the point where they told their sergeant. So the sergeant went and spoke with basically like the chief or the leader of the Kai Islands at the time. And he told him that, you know, this is normal. But if we catch one, you know, over the years, we'll, you know, one will wash up or we'll, you know, make a mistake and catch one in its nets. But it was like, if we catch one, we will, you know, let you know and you can come see it. And they did. So they basically called the sergeant and he went to see this creature and he was in shambles. I'm talking about flabbergasted. Like, he was in complete shock, like, at what he was seeing. Like, this is a whole mermaid creature in front of me. And these people are used to this. Like, they just casually caught this on a good old random Friday. So whenever the sergeant went back to, you know, where their designated area back in Japan or wherever they were, he was basically telling the people, the government and just like the people in the military, everything that was going on, scientists, he was like saying basically, y'all need to go research what's going on over there. This is not normal. But people really laughed at him and pushed it to the side because it didn't help that he didn't have any actual evidence or any pictures of it. So they really like was not stunned him. And it actually kind of like made his reputation because, you know, he's a respected sergeant in the military. The Japanese military at that, and you up here coming up me telling me about these mermaid stories. But this whole case was wild. This is actually a real documented case. You can search it up and everything. Like, these people were real life seeing mermaids. And the people that lived there, the indigenous people that lived there was just used to it. They don't bother us, we don't bother them. Simple. But let me know what y'all think about this crazy mermaid story because this is actually very true and very wild. And don't forget to stay tuned for more of my mermaid tales from across the globe.
After they confirmed that there's alien in our waters, I would not be surprised if that was like a part of the alien species. And it was during World War II, and apparently like all the UFO alien stuff happened around that time. So like, honestly, I wouldn't doubt it. Let me know what you guys think about that. Like, that's so weird to think about that there's aliens in our water. It could be a Project Bluebeam situation where they're trying to fool us, you know.
It happened again. Another historic UFO hearing, and I can't believe what they just told us. Immaculate constellation, UFO factories in our oceans, high definition videos of the non-human technology, confirmation that we have captured and are replicating them, and intentional government disinformation programs that covers it all up. The 214-page testimony is titled, "The United States Department of Defense and the intelligence community are withholding information about anomalous phenomena from Congress." And it's thick with information, a lot of which wasn't even covered in the 2-hour hearing, and I've got the juiciest bits for you right here. So this is the third major hearing dedicated to UAP transparency in recent times, after 2023's infamous revelation that the government may in fact be in possession of non-human biologics. Keeping tradition with this year's disclosure, everyone present made it abundantly obvious that there were certain individuals that did not want this hearing to happen. On the panel this time, we have a retired US Navy admiral, a former Department of Defense official, a former NASA official, all well-established, highly educated individuals, and of course, Michael Schellenberger, the journalist who presented the 200-page testimony that was the foundation of this hearing, who all testified under oath, meaning if they're lying, they're going to jail. They all insisted the government is deep into investigating and reverse engineering potentially alien technology using your money, the taxpayer, without actually telling you what they're using your money for. A lot of which comes from the enormous tax money funded Pentagon budget. And you want to know a little secret? The Pentagon has failed the past 7 consecutive tax audits and has in fact never passed one. Meaning the nation's largest government agency isn't able to prove what it spent its $824 billion budget on, nor can it account for 60% of its $4.1 trillion in assets. Imagine paying someone to do a job. They don't do it, and when you ask them about it, they tell you they lost all your money and have no idea what they spent it on. And above all, you legally can't even really do anything about it. In any other scenario, this is the definition of a scam, but in this case, we call it our government. If any regular person ever failed a tax audit, they'd likely face hefty fines and possible jail time for tax evasion. The Pentagon gets away scot-free, because even if they were to get fined, they would just use more of your money to pay it off. And like, what are you gonna do? Shut down the country's national defense force? These failed audits are significant because part of that budget is their useless all-domain anomaly resolution office, ARROW, the department responsible for revealing to the public findings about UAPs. And so far, all they've ever done is hide shit from us or tell us what we thought was a UFO actually wasn't. Basically, the government's debunking department, whose head director, Dr. Jolkowski, had his own hearing just a week later to explain himself, where he showed a couple pie charts and debunked a few UAP videos as being just weather balloons. He does admit that many UAP reports are currently unexplainable, but he can't really go into those too much as they're unresolved. The entire department's job is essentially, yes, we have unknown technology in our skies that we can't talk about, so let's instead focus on all the reports we've debunked to keep you calm. Schellenberger's document reveals that there is in fact a top secret UFO retrieval program deep in the Pentagon called Immaculate Constellation, an unacknowledged special access program, USAP, that our government promises doesn't actually exist, who he confirms was revealed to him by a number of former and current government officials who claim that even mentioning the program will put you on a list. Welcome to the club. So we already know there are hundreds of unknown objects flying around in our skies that pretty much defy physics in every way. It's no secret anymore. Dozens of pilots from major airlines around the world have anonymously reported them as well. No visible propulsion system, irregular flight patterns, and crazy stupid fast. Their movement is insane. To put into perspective, the human body can withstand about 9 Gs of force for about 2 seconds before ceasing to live. And F-16 fighter jets about 18 Gs before they experience severe structural damage. The UAPs are consistently performing in excess of 3,000 Gs. This quite literally is not physically possible, yet they're doing it. They're also able to fly through water without any signs of slowing down. This is the reason they stopped calling them UFOs, unidentified flying object, and now refer to them as UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena, as we can't even be sure if they're exactly flying or whether they're even objects at all, because they appear to go into and come out of our oceans just as smoothly as they float through our skies, like they don't experience any drag from passing through water, with further rumors speculating that there might even be extraterrestrial bases and UAP manufacturing facilities at the bottom of our oceans, which is not confirmed, just some insane speculation. But to be honest, it would be the best place for aliens to hide a base if they could, as we do know more about space than we do about the deepest parts of our oceans. The Immaculate Constellation program also has high-definition photos and videos of these UAPs coming out of our oceans, which they refuse to disclose to the public, along with other high-quality imagery, measurements, and more intelligence surrounding the UAPs. The fuzzy videos we see are the only thing they allowed to get released, affirming to mostly come in the shape of spheres, orbs, discs, saucers, triangles, boomerangs, arrowheads, and even some organic-shaped. Did they just confirm the jellyfish UFO? One case involves orbs surrounding an F-22 fighter jet, which sounds awfully familiar to a certain flight MH370 incident, which, don't you worry, I'll be covering real soon. Now, you may be asking, why is it that we're unable to capture these HD photos of UFOs ourselves, and most everything we get is always conveniently blurry? The former NASA official on the panel, Mr. Gold, actually brought up an excellent point about this. These UAPs are fast, they're unpredictable, and they're typically very, very far away. Whenever scientists wish to study new phenomena, they usually have to take time to develop instruments specifically designed for observing said phenomena. Just like we have for objects in space, decades of research went into building the telescopes that we use to take the incredible photos of our universe today. The videos of UAPs we have now is like trying to take a photo of a black hole in deep space using an iPhone. It took us about a century from when black holes were first proposed to developing the instruments to take a photo of one, which we did for the first time in 2019. Super expensive and highly advanced technology technology was used to take this. Immaculate Constellation has developed those instruments to observe UAPs in detail, and they don't want to share the pics. Allegedly in possession of a 13-minute long HD full-color video of a white orb UAP coming out of the ocean off the coast of Kuwait before getting joined by another orb and then moving out of the frame. In another video, the crew of a Navy aircraft carrier watched a small orange-red sphere fall from the sky down to their flight deck and then zipping away. Multiple somethings are definitely out there. Yet the Department of Defense has denied the existence of UAPs over and over again, only to acknowledge them after they get revealed to the public, hiding it all under the guise of national security, and that there is definitely nothing more to show beyond what we've already seen. But don't worry, they're definitely telling the truth this time. Also included in the extensive testimony was a very interesting tactic that got all the tinfoil heads smiling ear to ear. Governments are actively engaged in disinformation campaigns to include personal attacks designed to discredit UAP whistleblowers. Bob Lazar has been categorically debunked. Yeah, well, guess what? You got bitch, and we might all owe him a bit of an apology. This is also evident in the Pentagon's Public Affairs Office, who, quote, openly employs a professional psychological operations officer as the singular point of contact for any UAP inquiries to both citizens and the media. Isn't that just a little odd? A literal PSYOP agent is the Pentagon's UFO spokesperson, and we already kinda knew this for decades. Since 1953, the CIA's Robertson panel recommended a strategy of using experts to dismiss and ridicule UAP witnesses and government whistleblowers. And a declassified 1971 Australian government memo about UAPs claims that the CIA urged the debunking of UFO sightings as cover of its efforts to develop craft powered by anti-gravity. The US Air Force openly used Project Blue Book as a means to publicly debunk UFOs by intentionally withholding information about them. Even within NASA, Mr. Gold claims members of the UAP independent study team were mocked and even threatened for just talking about any of this, with current alternative theories produced by Arrow stating that these UAPs may be some natural phenomena that we don't fully understand yet. Oh yeah, right. While the US government is busy conducting secret UAP crash retrieval programs with the intent to identify and reverse engineer alien craft, just as Bob Lazar already told us over 30 years ago. Roswell, the infamous 1947 UFO crash in New Mexico that started it all and was mocked for being absolute nonsense, kind of confirmed at this point. All victims of the government's malicious disinformation efforts that fooled everyone. Now, I'm not saying that, I don't know, your favorite internet debunker is a government agent. They're probably not. But it is possible that the experts or the data used to debunk these theories could have been planted by intentional government disinformation operations like these. But don't worry, I'm sure they drew the line at UFOs. I mean, there's no way they would ever use this admittedly genius tactic of using experts to discredit theories they don't like on anything else, right? The panel of experts suggests the US is in possession of these non-human technologies and are replicating them, as are our foreign adversaries in a decades-long secretive arms race, as well as experimenting on the non-human biological bodies recovered from these crafts too, which puts the US military and the Immaculate Constellation program in direct violation of their constitutional duty to notify Congress and the public, that's us, of their operations. Both Trump and Obama have confirmed the US has info on UAPs they haven't released yet. Trump does claim he wishes to declassify more government documents like these for additional transparency on topics like UAPs and, of course, the JFK files when he comes into office next year. 2025 may or may not be an interesting one for us all.
Honestly, 2024 is crazy, but 2025 I feel like it's gonna be crazier. 5 years from 2020. Wow, man. Came a long way, dude. But what he was saying about Project Bluebeam, how they might try to mislead us, but it's funny because no one really cares. Like, people are like, oh yeah, there's aliens in our oceans, there's aliens this, aliens that, but no one really cares anymore. Like, is that just me, or what? Like, you could probably tell someone like, yo, apparently there's like aliens in our oceans, and like before people were like, what, aliens in our oceans? But nowadays people are like, whatever, like, still gotta go to work tomorrow, still gotta pay the bills, like, okay, you know. Let me know your thoughts about aliens in our oceans down in the comments.
It actually happened. Oh my god, aliens are from our oceans, confirmed today in the Oversight Committee hearing, a live stream that was broadcasted all over the world. The 4 witnesses, which included a retired Navy commander, a rear admiral, confirmed to the Oversight Committee of Congress, hey, they are real. We have UAP materials and bioorganic materials, not just us. Every other country behind closed doors is doing a secret advanced arm race trying to reverse engineer all the technology that they found. They said they're from our oceans. We have 4K video evidence of them appearing from the ocean out of Kuwait, out of Africa, the East Coast, the West Coast, Mexico. Every continent on this planet has UAP video evidence all leaving our oceans. They say it's not human, it is an intelligent, artificial, or bioorganic, but it's some type of intelligence that is eons ahead of us humans, and they've been here longer than us. What the hell is going on?
That is so weird, yo. And Garcia said that there was aliens in the water, and people were like, look at him. He was not lying. There's really aliens in our water. Let me know your thoughts about aliens in our waters down in the comments.
Imagine going into surgery to try to fix a condition, but you actually come out looking much worse. Well, that's exactly what happened to 29-year-old Kayla Cannon. She was born with congenital ptosis, which is basically a condition where your eyes droop. And she wanted to fix this problem, so she went to a specialist, and then she came out looking like this. Kayla decided to get this procedure done with Dr. Harvey Chip Cole, who's located in Atlanta. This doctor made a ton of mistakes during this procedure, one of them being removing half of her eyelids, which caused a lot of tightness and left her looking like this. After the botched surgery, Kayla had a serious infection and could barely close her eyes because of how tight they were. And she had to undergo 7 additional surgeries to correct the damage, and she was left with these permanent scars. Kayla's devastated because she feels like she went through this procedure only to look worse than what she did, and this is the first time that this doctor did something like this. This is another patient who was also botched, and she came out right after Kayla spoke out about this doctor. And the crazy thing about this is that he is still practicing.
Well, if he didn't make it clear before, it's clear now. Just never go to that doctor, like ever.
You're really telling me that nobody ever saw something? Not one of these people heard or saw something that they shouldn't have heard or seen? None of these celebrities knew what Diddy was doing? I mean, it's frankly very hard to believe. Everyone's been around that friend who gets a little too drunk and says something that they shouldn't. So you're telling me that P. Diddy never got too drunk, too high, too whatever, maybe even too comfortable around some of his elite friends and never said anything about what he was doing? I mean, for decades, P. Diddy has been a hardcore sexual predator, running a massive sex trafficking operation that has involved many, many minors. And still, nobody ever heard or saw a single thing? I mean, with the amount of parties that P. Diddy was having and the people that he was inviting, these seemed like pretty big events that he would have to prepare for all the time. And it seems like one person in his organization would tell somebody something, right? Well, I guess not. We should just trust all of these people because they will always tell us the truth. At least, that's what we're told to do. But I don't buy it. Somebody saw something. And I think that there's a silence in Hollywood because not only are people complicit in this stuff, but there had to have been many, many dozens, if not hundreds of others who saw the signs, who saw the victims leaving P. Diddy's place, who were told things over drunken or stoned conversations, who just sat idly by the side and did nothing. And honestly, it doesn't get more disturbing than that. Just food for thought.
In my opinion, I feel like a lot of people knew, but like when you have that much power, when you're P. Diddy, it's kind of hard to just be like, yo, he's out here trafficking. Like, you know what I'm saying?
These are the creepiest things found in people's houses, part 1. Up first, a married couple moved into a new house when they decided to rip up the carpet and get a new one. But what they found underneath the carpet is absolutely terrifying. Underneath the carpet was a pentagram, which is a symbol of the devil and devil worshippers. This is extremely scary because the previous homeowners were definitely doing satanic rituals. Next up, a homeowner decided to move a mirror in his house when he discovered a camera behind it. There was a specific hole cut in the wall for the camera to fit, making you think whoever put it there did it to spy on the people living in the house. This is so chilling and disturbing, I would immediately move out.
Sea monsters are real, and there's a big one under the ocean. Let me explain. Bangladesh legend talks about an eel longer than eternity with a head the size of a town that could swallow up entire armies. They called it Anantashesha, but after strange evidence surfaced, officials got involved. But every attempt to study this monster was a catastrophic failure. Visions of eyes in the darkness haunted anyone swimming in the area, even long after they had gone home. Those that have seen the eel say it oozes a mysterious goop in the water that drives you to pure insanity. Tests were then run on the fluid and found it could be used as a powerful sedative and memory-wiping amnesia serum, amnestics. Though its full length has never been observed, it's theorized to be about 1 megameter in length, or roughly the size of France. Big water noodle. However, right now it is fully motionless, with studies saying that it's currently sleeping, meaning you could swim right up to the thing until it wakes up. See, this isn't just an Anantashesha. This is SCP-3000.
Honestly, now that I know that there's aliens possibly in our water, I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt if there's like a big long worm the size of France just chilling in our water. Honestly, I would not even doubt if that's part of the alien species, you know?
This is the last photo of Chris Creamers, a Dutch tourist that went to Panama on a jungle hike with their friend in 2014. The mystery of their disappearance still remains unsolved today, so let's talk about what we know. But this photo was taken on April 1st of 2014. When the parents of Lisanne Froon, the friend that came with her, and Chris Creamer's parents stopped receiving updates, they got worried and traveled to Panama to find their daughters. They were accompanied by police when they arrived on April 6th, and they scoured the forest for 10 days trying to find their daughters. Now, after about 10 weeks or 2.5 months, a woman turned in a blue backpack belonging to Froon. It had a camera and a phone in it. Creamer's phone was turned on intermittently between April 5th and 11th with the incorrect PIN being entered. Froon's phone died on April 4th. What they found in the photographs was disturbing. 90 flash photographs were taken intermittently between 1 and 4 a.m. One of the last photos had Creamer's hair with blood all over it, and it was a photo of the back of her head. 2 months after the backpack were turned in, they discovered some bones. They found a pelvis bone and a foot bone, and upon analysis, it belonged to Froon and Creamer. It's even weirder, upon all of the bones and the findings they found, there are no discernible marks of trauma or any marks on their bones at all. So it's still a mystery on how they might have died. And it still remains unsolved 10 years later today. Froon's bones appear to have skin on it still, and then Creamer's bones appear to have been bleached. Because of the cleanliness of this scene, I don't think an animal got to them. That was my initial thought on reading the story. I think somebody who does this a lot got to them. Because somebody did this very swift and clean, and they really left no evidence to be found. This story is one of those cases that keep me up at night. Let me know what you guys think about this case in the comment section below, and as always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
Here's some news you actually want to hear. Alright, firstly, Spain has pre-approved a law that gives pets equal rights as humans. So by law, if you see a pet on the street, you have to treat them the same way as a child. Next, do you all remember the Success Kid meme? Well, from this meme going viral, this young boy was actually able to pay for his father's kidney transplant that was over $100,000. Now, believe it or not, but archaeologists actually found the real tomb of Santa Claus. And yeah, it might not be the Santa Claus you're thinking of, but the original one. His coffin was found under a Turkish church. Moving on, Portugal has made it illegal for bosses to contact employers after work hours. When is this going to go global? And finally, the dodo bird went extinct in the 17th century. However, after a DNA breakthrough, scientists say this bird could come back to life in the next couple of years.
It's just a cigarette and it cannot be that bad.
Honey, don't you love me and you know it makes me sad.
It's just a cigarette like you always used to do.
I was different then, I don't need them to be cool.
Weird facts you did not know about. In 1981, 3 young men found the murdered body of a woman laying in a roadside ditch in Ohio. She was known as the Buckskin Girl because of the poncho she'd been wearing, but police struggled to identify her for decades. That was until 37 years later in 2018, when DNA analysis identified her as hitchhiker Marcia King. Her mother had still been living in the same house, with the same phone number, never giving up hope that her daughter may return home one day. Marcia's murder remains unsolved, but the case is still open. In a form of doping known as boosting, wheelchair athletes with spinal injuries will sometimes intentionally injure themselves below the waist They cause their bodies to respond by raising blood pressure, thus enhancing their performance. Techniques include clamping down on a catheter to overfill the bladder, breaking toe bones, and administering electric shocks to the legs, feet, and testicles. Boosting has been completely banned by the International Paralympic Committee since 1994.
I'm trying to figure out how the hell do they know that boosting was a thing? Like, I'm trying to figure out who was the first person to ever do boosting and realize that, wow, this is actually a method that works.
Are the creepiest things kids have ever said. And before I tell you these, I feel like I'm obliged to say, I'm so sorry. First up, we've got monster under the bed. One night, a young girl couldn't sleep because apparently there was something under her bed. And when her parents came into the room to say go back to sleep because there's nothing under her bed, she replied with, I know. He's behind you now. Like, I'm sorry. What? Next up, a 4-year-old girl was found in the bathroom by her mum with all of her Barbies. But she was making them float face down in the bath. When the mum asked what she was doing, she replied with, the man in the wardrobe told me if I didn't do it, it would be my turn to swim face down. Next up, a 3-year-old boy was softly singing in a room while colouring in a picture. His mum actually stopped to listen because she'd never heard the song before. When she asked where he learnt it, he said the lady in my bedroom sang it to me. And finally, a 5-year-old asked his mum when he was going to be 23. His mum said in 18 years' time, and he replied with, well, I hope I don't die again, as that was how old I was the last time I went to heaven. Tell me which story made you go, what the fuck? The most. And share this with a friend to just creep him out because you're a good person. Now everyone with me. Elon!
5 days ago, these two girls made a TikTok saying they found a dead body in the morning, but the thing is, they weren't lying. Two girls from Texas, age 17 and 16, made a Snapchat of them stealing jewelry off of the dead body of a man they found in a drainage ditch. In the video, Bethany Martin, the 17-year-old, took the necklace off of the man's corpse and gave it to her friend who was recording. The younger teen told police that she put the medallion on her own gold necklace because it matched her fashion style. Both girls have been charged with theft to a human corpse, and police believe the man's death was a suicide.
This is a true horrifying story, part 30. This story took place in Medina, Saudi Arabia in the year 2001. And the person who said this story is Dr. Yasser Qadhi. He's someone that is known in the community of the Islamic Da'iyas. There are exorcists from all religions, Muslims, Christians, and Jewish. And their job is to perform an exorcism session on a person who is possessed by a demon or a jinn. When Dr. Yasser was a student, he studied in Medina. There was a known exorcist that practiced ruqya for many years, and Dr. Yasser wanted to learn from him. Back at the dorm of the Islamic college, there was a student that is a fresh convert, just recently converted to Islam. He barely knows anything about the religion, small bits of the Quran, does not know the ahadith, and doesn't know the big scholars in Islam. One day, the students were reading Quran out loud back at the dorm, and this new convert student starts to scream and roll on the ground. They knew he was possessed, so they called Dr. Yasser. Now remember, Dr. Yasser was still a student back then. He was not an expert in exorcism. He goes there and has a 2-hour session of ruqya, the ruqya that he recently learned, trying to kick out the demon out of this kid's body. As he reads Quran, he would see an alien-like movement on the kid's body. His skin would ripple up and down. A human being cannot do this intentionally. He would follow the movement with his hands reading the Quran, and he would see it move somewhere else. After the session was over, the kid looked fine, and they got lunch for everyone to eat. They say Bismillah, and they ask the new convert to join them for lunch. He said, I'm not hungry, it's okay. As they were eating, one of the students drops a piece of his food on the ground and ignores it. The convert student immediately jumps like a snake, picks it up and gobbles it down with his left hand. Dr. Yasser lets the food go and gets up, knowing that this kid is still possessed. He tries to intimidate this demon by shouting, I'm gonna bring Sheikh bin Uthaymeen to read on you. Now Sheikh bin Uthaymeen is a huge Islamic scholar, and he passed away around that time in January 2001. This kid laughs hysterically with a raspy demonic voice. He gets up and he asks, are you going to bring him back from the dead? This is when they all realized that this wasn't a human entity that spoke. How can this new convert know who Sheikh bin Uthaymeen is? And why would he say he's not hungry but ate food that dropped on the ground? And how was his skin rippling? Jinns can harm you, and the harm is tangible. This is not a joke. Being possessed is very real. Even to exorcists, it's very dangerous, and only people with very strong faith can do it.
Creepiest home camera footage. In 2017,
a mother in Billings, Montana woke up in the middle of the night to a notification on her phone. Her phone was synced to a baby monitor she had set up in her infant daughter's room. On this night, upon being alerted, she opened the app expecting to see her daughter awake in the crib. But instead she saw this. A man she didn't know is seen crouched down in the room. She saw this and ran to the room to retrieve her daughter and run out the house. She didn't see anyone in the room but wasn't exactly looking. When she called the cops, they arrived and conducted a search of the home but didn't find anything. A very odd detail is that it was found that nothing but the remote to a dog shock collar was stolen from the house. Who this man is and how he got in the house is still unknown.
Submechanophobia is a fear of human-made objects submerged in water, and this could be partially or entirely underwater. So something like a ride where the animatronics come in and out of the water would trigger this. Some of the popular imagery associated with this fear comes from a Japanese folklore park, where a trio of river monsters rise out of a pond. Someone with this fear also may not like the idea of an underwater shipwreck. They may even not like the idea of a buoy. A part of submechanophobia is that people are scared that they could get stuck next to or underneath the underwater object, or that something more dangerous might emerge out of the foreign object, like a body or something, especially if the object is old and abandoned. This could also maybe lead you to believe that it is haunted.
That's an interesting fear to me, just because of the fact that it's not necessarily something that's actually going to hurt them. It's more of a man-made object just underwater. If you have that fear, put your experience down in the comments.
I have a few more pieces of information to add to the video that I made about missing aspiring LA actress Chanel Banks. If this is coming up on your For You page and you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch the video, but also here's the synopsis. 36-year-old Chanel Banks has been missing since before Halloween. Her cousin is looking for her. Her husband has not been very cooperative. He says he tracked her AirPods to Texas. Police went to Texas. They found someone who says they are Chanel. The body cam footage was seen by the cousin and she says it is not Chanel. Anyways, the cousin has made a GoFundMe. I think it is for private investigative services and also for the cost of living and eating and stuff while she is in LA because she does not live in LA. But in the description of this GoFundMe, there's some other information that I thought was important to go over. So it does say their last contact with her was October 30. However, 2 welfare checks were performed on November 7th and 2 more on November 8th. I don't know what triggered those welfare checks, but keep that date in mind, November 7th. So Danielle says that on November 10th, so only a few days later, my aunt, she says, which I'm assuming is Chanel's mom, and I were able to get into the apartment. So very quick after they realized something was wrong. The only items we did not locate are her phone and laptop. She also does not have her vehicle because it's parked in her garage. Now, at the very bottom here, it says, we noticed on November 10th, that is when they arrived. On November 10th, they noticed that her husband had a busted lip and marks and scratches on his neck and arms. Police were called on November 10th and they took pictures of his injuries, which he did not have 2 days ago when police did the last welfare check. The husband says she does not want to be found. She will reach out when she's ready. He claims he doesn't know where she is. He says he hasn't seen or heard from her since November 7th. Remember, that was when the first welfare check was called in. But LAPD have told us because there's no signs of foul play, there's nothing they can do. And also that they're going to hire a private investigator. I have so many thoughts about this, and unfortunately none of them are positive. And it just makes me sick to my stomach hearing these details, knowing how so many of these cases pan out. And I feel like this one is just checking all of the boxes. Red flag, red flag, red flag. First off, if someone's going to go somewhere and they don't want to be found, why would they not take their car? Second, why would they only take their phone and laptop and not their wallet, their purse, their dog? I also really, really want to know the path that those AirPods took. He says he tracked them to Texas. Did they happen to go through any postal service locations? Did they travel on a highway? That would be very helpful information. There's so many other things that I could say about this, but I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know what you think.
As promised, and before I'm accused of protecting this sorry excuse of a man,
Please meet the still practicing attorney accused of purchasing a 13-year-old girl in 2022. Karel Benjamin Skuman is 35 years old and appeared today in the Johannesburg High Court, pleading not guilty to the multiple charges, 26 to be precise, against him. He is currently the co-accused in a horrific trial detailing gross negligence and abuse of minors. The mother of the girl in question, 38 years old, has also pled not guilty to the charges laid before her. The trial, however, will resume on the 4th of November, where she will continue with her plea, seeing as there's 73 charges against her. Skuman is still out on bail of 30,000 rand following his 2023 arrest. According to media sources, he is still registered as an attorney practicing under CBS Attorney. The Legal Practice Council, however, has also confirmed that there are 3 active complaints against him, none of which are connected to this case. As the trial continues next week, I'll be sure to keep you updated. And for those asking, yes, I will be covering this case in depth and in detail on my channel once the trial has concluded. Until the next one, Bella out.
The popular girls at school befriended this quiet, nerdy girl who ended up unaliving them. Christine Paula was diagnosed with alopecia, so she was bald and had to wear wigs. She also had to wear these really thick glasses, so her appearance made her the target of relentless bullying. She even had to change schools and started attending Clear Lake High School, where the bullying continued. 2 of the more popular girls in school, Rachel and Tiffany, noticed that Christine was being bullied and befriended her. And they gave her one of those early 2000 movie style makeovers, you know, when they take off the nerdy girl's glasses and realize she was beautiful all along. The makeover was so drastic that Christine was voted Miss Irresistible by her classmates, the same ones that were just bullying her. Christine, Rachel, and Tiffany were best friends. They did everything together, but unfortunately Rachel and Tiffany were a year older than Christine, so when they graduated, Christine was back to not really having any other friends. So she kind of fell into the wrong crowd. It was also around the same time that Christine started dating 21-year-old Chris Snyder. The two had a really toxic relationship and started abusing hard substances together. And Tiffany and Rachel did not like their friend's new boyfriend. They weren't into hard substances. They would occasionally be at parties where lettuce would be floating around, but the stuff that Christine and Chris were doing was much harder. So on July 18th, 2003, 17-year-old Christine and 21-year-old Chris planned to go to Tiffany's house just to steal some lettuce, but instead started shooting at everyone that was in the house. The couple fired at least 40 rounds, unaliving Rachel, Tiffany, Tiffany's boyfriend Marcus, and his cousin Dee. And this massacre would go unsolved for years, until an anonymous tip came in that led the investigators to the names Chris Snyder and Christine Paula. And no one wanted to believe that Christine could be involved in any way. I mean, she was supposed to be Tiffany and Rachel's best friend. It didn't make any sense, but it was sadly true. Christine was found and brought into custody at a motel that she was hiding out at that was filled with hundreds of needles, and she was sentenced to life in prison. Chris Snyder was never able to be brought to justice because he unalived himself when he found out that the police were finally after him. Christine never apologized or gave any motive to why she unalived her best friends, even though Tiffany and Rachel were the first people to ever show her any kindness. Now it's widely believed that she was just bitterly jealous of them because of how effortlessly beautiful and popular they were. Let me know all of your thoughts, theories, questions, and case suggestions in the comments.
I guarantee you she was just really baited off of something, and then she did that. And now she probably regrets it, honestly. Hopefully she regrets it.
This is probably one of the most chilling unsolved cases I've ever come across. This is Christine Walters, and in 2008 she was a student at the University of Wisconsin. She was a good student, and she had a very pleasant way about her. It was very easy for Christine to make friends, and she just had this personality that would draw people in. Recently, Christine had started looking into the more spiritual side of things and had started teaching yoga and Pilates and was going to more health store foods and just looking at a more holistic way of taking care of her body, if that makes sense. So in 2008, she decided that she wanted to go spend some time in Portland, Oregon with a few of her friends. She had planned to stay there for 3 weeks and bought a two-way ticket. But towards the end of this trip, Christine decided that she had fallen in love with the area and wanted to stay a little bit longer to explore a little more. Christine was also becoming more and more involved in a group called Green Life Evolutions, and this group has since been disbanded because many people believed it to be a cult. Christine decides to stay on the East Coast, and in September of 2008, she moves to Humboldt County, California. At the beginning of this trip, Christine would call her family frequently, keeping in touch with them often, letting them know what was going on. But as time went on, she would call less and less, and she also wasn't working as much, so this would often lead her to call her family occasionally to get some money. Her dad would even send her $1,000, but this would remain completely untouched in her bank account. A few weeks before Christine disappeared, she called her mother, and allegedly this was a concerning phone call. Like, her mom was really worried about her and asked her to come back, but Christine told her mother that she was going to be just fine and decided to stay longer. Then on November 7th of 2008, Christine takes part in a cleansing ceremony where they all drink ayahuasca-infused tea. For those that don't know, ayahuasca is not a legal substance here in the United States, and it is a hallucinogenic. Christine stays with the group of people who were part of this cleansing ceremony until November 11th of 2008. That's when she leaves Arcata, California, because that's where this all took place. It was in the morning hours of November 11th, 2008 that Christine shows up on a couple's property on their front porch. She has scratches all over her body, and her feet are basically raw from running through the woods all night long. She was covered in blood. But not only that, she was scared and completely nude. Christine was taken to the hospital, and there she told doctors and police that she was running from demons who were chasing her. We'll get into more in part 2. It'll be down in the comments.
I mean, she did say she was off of ayahuasca, but I heard with the ayahuasca, you don't really see demons. You actually, like, I mean, I don't know. I never took it, so I can't sit here and be like, you don't see demons. Because, like, how the hell should I know? You know what's funny? That's ironic that she said that at the end of that video, because Jake Paul, the reason why he versed Mike Tyson was because he took ayahuasca and he told him that he's going to fight Mike Tyson. And it did happen. So that's crazy. And we're about to take a look at that in the next video to see what was really going on with that fight. If you guys seen the fight, let me know your thoughts about it in the comments.
Alright, so let me explain some things that might help you understand why the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul match went the way it did. See, Jake Paul had a problem. People thought his fight with Mike Tyson was terrible, awful, shouldn't have happened, and was just a money grab. Now, we're going to focus on that money grab part. Because see, first things first, Jake Paul is trying to sell you as many tickets as possible. And he does that 2 different ways. One, the person he's fighting has to be entertaining enough for you to want to watch them. Mike Tyson, Anderson Silva, and a bunch of fighters who really stopped fighting a long time ago. Now, here's where things get a little interesting. See, the second thing that Jake does to sell you tickets is by trying to make you hate him. And well, that's kind of easy for him because everyone already hates him, but he puts on glasses. He calls himself the problem child. You want to see one of these older legends, so you watch the show. But let me let you in on a secret. Jake Paul is in a lot more trouble than you would think, because what he thinks he's doing is using the same strategy Muhammad Ali used. See, Muhammad Ali had a quote. It said, "Love me, hate me, I don't care, just buy a ticket." Because not many people know this, but when Muhammad Ali was first starting out his career, people hated him. Because Muhammad Ali was not your traditional boxer. He was always making jokes, always running his mouth, while other boxers were stoic, locked in. So people wanted to see Muhammad Ali get silenced. People would buy a ticket, Muhammad Ali would win. Jake Paul thinks he's doing the same thing again, but there's a key difference. The difference being, even though Muhammad Ali was all fun and games, deep down inside, he was a monster. A once-in-a-generational talent who could back up his mouth. So people would say, yeah, he talk a lot, but he could throw hands. Same as Money Mayweather, who took this strategy to the modern age. People would be like, yeah, he talk a lot, but he could throw hands. Jake Paul, people just say he talk a lot. So here's what he had to do. He had to keep changing his strategy every time because people aren't as dumb as you think. He's fighting retired MMA fighters by like the 3rd time. People are over it. They're not watching no more. Jake Paul like, where y'all going? They're like, we seen you do the same thing like 5 other times. Jake Paul is like, no, but I really want to be a boxer. People are like, well then fight a boxer. So Jake Paul changes his strategy. He fights a boxer named Tommy Fury. And Tommy Fury, who's Jake Paul's age and actually boxes, demolishes him. But Jake Paul didn't do too bad, but that's because everything he does is strategic. Jake chose Tommy Fury because Tommy Fury really just started his career for real. So Jake's team's thinking, okay, Jake's got a shot. Tommy Fury also don't knock people out. Jake's team thinking, we got this. They didn't have it because this is what Tommy Fury does. Now, are you keeping up so far? We're in phase 2 of Jake Paul's strategy. Phase 1, fight big name MMA fighters, make a lot of money. People get bored, lose a lot of money. Jake Paul says, y'all want to see me fight a real boxer? People say, yeah. He makes a lot of money. He loses, people are like, oh no, Jake can't box. We don't want to see it again. That's where Muhammad Ali and Mayweather were different. They can box, so people are like, okay, we can keep watching them. Jake Paul has to do something, and here's where it starts to get wicked. He says, well, what about Mike Tyson? It's the perfect plan, because it's Mike Tyson, the baddest man on the planet. Kids, let me tell you something. If anybody ever looks at you like this, walk away. But anyway, funny enough, people weren't going for it. They still weren't really fooled. They said, oh, it's going to be one of Jake Paul's fake little WWE matches. So Jake Paul had to come out and say, no, there's knockouts involved. People were like, Then Jake Paul says, this is going on our boxing records. People then said, People said, this is going to be attached to their records, their legacies. Mike Tyson finna take this serious. But people don't know Mike Tyson. See, Mike Tyson throughout his life has been through a lot. A lot. I might make a story on him one day. So much so he had to go through guided spiritual journeys and therapy, or he was gonna. And it helped him escape the man he used to be, who he says he was terrified of. And well, y'all have to pay attention to what he is saying and how he's saying it. A lot of people saw a glimpse of, the new person Mike Tyson is from the interview he had with Jaslyn, who, by the way, is fantastic. He says, who cares about legacy? Legacy is nothing. We're all gonna be gone soon, turned to dust. Which means he probably doesn't care about his boxing records. But most importantly, look at who he's saying this to. He's saying this to a child. When you talk to a child, you're supposed to say things a certain way. But Mike Tyson just says how he feels. And that's why I think the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight wasn't scripted, but it's probably a lot simpler than that. I think on Mike Tyson's end, one, he wanted $20 million that he got paid for the fight. And two, he wanted to box again, just for fun. In fact, he says this at the end of the match. Just complete honesty. They asked him after the match, they said, you gonna do this again? What you're supposed to say is, no, I'm just an old man. These legs ain't what they used to be. Then everyone cheers. And then maybe you do it again if you feel like it. But he said, yeah, I think so. The interviewer said, oh, why? Because I have fun. He says maybe he'll box the other Paul brother. Who knows? But I feel like Mike is just coasting. Also, Mike Tyson's 58. Jake Paul's 27. There doesn't need to be a script. Jake Paul is going to probably win. Wait, but listen to me. Not every 27-year-old could just beat Mike Tyson. Jake Paul is not that bad of a boxer. Again, he's probably not going to beat boxers that really do that and are his age, but an older retired boxer with an injured leg, probably. Jake Paul's also not dumb enough to knock out Mike Tyson or even hurt Mike Tyson. If Jake Paul did that, his career would have been over. And that's why for the last few rounds, Jake Paul didn't really swing. He thought Mike Tyson was tired. He was like, all right. And really, it's a win for Mike, and actually not as big as a win for Jake as you would think. Yeah, he made a lot of money doing this, but money isn't everything. He can't do this again. People will not be fooled again. Next time he gets in the ring, he gotta fight. Because if he don't throw hands with a boxer his age, he gotta challenge Kamala Harris, because ain't nobody watching it. And he says from the bottom of his heart, he wants to be taken seriously as a boxer, and he wants to become world champion. But he not like this guy. Remember what we talked about earlier, kids? You see those eyes, you walk away. You walk away. You run away. If y'all don't know who this guy is, don't worry. He's coming soon. Again, you walk away. This one's a little harder. Let me cover this for you. Walk away. This guy though, nah, there's something missing. You can approach.
The Tyson versus Paul script was fully leaked all the way down to the bow Jake did in round 8. This profile on X posted it anonymously one day before the fight, explaining everything before deleting it today. A fake script has been going around that said Mike Tyson will get KO'd in round 5, but that one was clearly not real or an older script. This will give you goosebumps. I'm just going to read you parts, but if you want to see the full script, I'll show you it at the end. Round 1, opening bell rings and Tyson is showing flashes of his old form, but slower than his prime. Round 2, Tyson comes alive, but his breathing grows heavier. Round 3, Paul gains confidence and lands a sharp right that stuns Tyson. That's exactly what happened. Then round 4 and 5, the fatigue sets in strong for Tyson and Jake is landing a bunch of hits. Round 6, Jake showboats, which is the tongue thing he did here. Then on round 7, Jake plays the safe to not KO Mike. And round 8 wins by decision and bows at the end. This is crazy. Follow, and if you want to read it yourself, it's right here.
If you guys want to go back and pause the video so you can see what he's talking about, or you could just read it, you can do that. But yeah, like I'm saying, like I don't even know if that script specifically is real, but I truly feel like to an extent they just had an agreement behind the scenes. I truly don't think it was a real fight where they really want, you know what I'm saying? Because Jake Paul and Mike Tyson and the whole Paul brothers have actually been friends with Mike Tyson before this fight happened, before this whole thing happened. So I'm pretty sure they just signed something in the background, just say like, yo, let's run this, collect a quick, you know what I'm saying, a couple M's, go about our lives. So they kind of just scammed us. They didn't scam themselves, they scammed us. Like, we kind of got scammed. Like, I'm sure it was free because it was on Netflix. You know what I'm saying? It takes time to watch stuff like that. So I could have been sleeping, you know what I'm saying, get some crazy sleep, but instead I was up waiting to see Mike Tyson knock this shit out. Just for me to see the fakest, most scriptedest, garbagest fight of my life. And it just stains in my, it's just like a stain in my brain. It's something you just want to forget, but you just can't. You can't forget that. It was the worst fight of my existence. And I'm about to show y'all a video of Jake Paul actually saying how majority, this was like probably 5 years ago before he really started boxing, he was saying like how majority of these fights are scripted. So it's kind of crazy to think that he kind of scripted one. I mean, I guess it was kind of obvious.
You know, I've been in this sport for a year now, and like I probably shouldn't be saying this, but all of this shit's fucking rigged. You know, you see people whining and dining each other. You see people at Staples Center. Like who was at the Staples Center last night with KSI? Joe Markowski. People. This sport's rigged for sure. 100%.
It's funny he said that, and then he made the whole thing with him and Mike Tyson look like a WWE match. Like, why did he come in on a car like that? Like, bro, just walk out. You know what I'm saying? Like, he made the whole thing look like some WWE shit. And honestly, I give Jake mad credit because for someone that like really scammed the public, he definitely made a lot of money from it. So like, you know what I'm saying? As a promoter, as I guess you could see an influencer, as someone that's trying to market a fight, he's really good. I definitely think Jake Paul versus Conor McGregor would be one of the craziest fights of all time because they both are really good at promoting and marketing a fight. The way they talk to each other, certain words they just how they act would be really good. The thing about Jake Paul is like Jake Paul can kind of be cringy and kind of like, you know what I'm saying, you look at him like you can tell he's kind of acting sometimes. But with Conor McGregor, I feel like everything he says he really and truly means, you know what I'm saying? But me personally, I'm really upset by that fight. Like it really like made like it was like, in my opinion, a disrespect to the boxing world. It was kind of like he just spit on the boxing world. It was like whatever. But you know what I'm saying? As the cards before that were pretty good though, but I don't know, that fight was, if you didn't see it, I'd even recommend go watching it, bro, cuz like you're just going to waste your time. It was horrible. Let me know what you think about the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight down in the comments.
This is everything that happened on the news today, but it's going to be simplified in 60 seconds. People are now thinking that they finally solved the Disney Mandela effect and it's messing with their heads. Basically, a lot of people remember in old Disney movies, Tinkerbell would actually fly around the castle in the intro and like do the dot thing with the sparkles. But apparently, if you go back and look at all of those movies, it never actually existed. Somebody actually just found Tinkerbell in the intro of one of these movies on an old DVD from a movie called Little Einstein. So we were not imagining it and it was real. This asteroid from 4.5 billion years ago unlocks a breakthrough about life on Mars. Okay. So this is an asteroid from Mars that landed back on Earth in 2011. And basically, they have now found the residue of hot water on Mars, which would have been a very long time ago, but they found it. And that is crucial for life on Earth. So NASA just shared some of the sharpest photos ever that have been taken of Jupiter. And then for everybody that's interested, including me, this is what it looks like, which is crazy. This new research is now showing that cows can actually have best friends and they do get stressed out whenever they're separated. So this research has now revealed that cows form close bonds with specific companions and experience stress whenever they're separated from them. So leave them alone. I give you these news roundups every day, so make sure you add me and come back to me tomorrow.
What an absolutely insane twist. So this father went missing in August while on a fishing trip. Police found his kayak, his keys, his car, wallet, license, but Ryan was nowhere to be found. And for the next 54 days, massive money and hours were spent by search and rescue teams, scouring the lake using divers, drones, sonars, canines, all while Ryan's wife and 3 children thought he had tragically drowned. But now police believe that something very different may have happened. They recently discovered that he had cleared his browsing history the day he disappeared. He inquired about moving funds to a foreign bank. He took out a new life insurance policy. He bought a new passport. And he even replaced his computer's hard drive. But here is the craziest part. Authorities also learned that Ryan had been communicating with a woman from Uzbekistan. Pretty specific, right? And 2 months before Ryan disappeared, this video was posted on TikTok.
Advice on anything?
I go to Uzbekistan or stay here?
Say that one more time.
Do I go to Uzbekistan or stay here?
Do you have family there?
No.
Why do you want to go?
Meet a woman. I want to find a companion that I'm content with.
I think that requires you to divorce someone first. Do you just feel like there's no love left between you guys?
Diminished.
Now, another plot twist, authorities say that they don't believe this man is Ryan. Which begs the question, how many married men are speaking to women in Uzbekistan? But what they do believe is that he is alive, he faked his own death, and that he is currently somewhere in Eastern Europe. The sheriff said, he wasted a lot of my time and it cost me a lot of money, and we're looking into what charges could be filed.
Like, why is there so many men going over to Uzbekistan? It's probably like some website that you click on. It's like, find Uzbekistan's girls now. They're here for you. Something like that, I swear to God.
Behind me built a homemade cage for his head to stop smoking. He then gave his wife the keys and only she could open it during meals. The man's name is Ibrahim Yücel. He is a Turkish man. He was smoking 2 packs daily for 26 years and decided he wanted to stop one day. So he built a homemade cage out of copper. In my opinion, this thing looks like a torture device. And he didn't just wear this at home. He wore this outside, going to work, running his errands. He was dedicated to stop smoking. He started doing this in 2013, and I believe he is still doing this to this day. The only thing he could get through the cage was a straw from a bottle of water and maybe some crackers. He designed it in a way that you couldn't even sneak a cigarette inside there. He definitely knew he would be having withdrawals and planned this accordingly. Down here is a picture of his wife unlocking the cage for him, and over here is more of a close-up photo of the cage. And then here's a picture of him with the cage off right here. He's talking on the phone. I'm assuming he's having a meal and he's just chatting away. But honestly, props to him. If it works, it works. I'm not sure if I have any followers from Turkey, but if I do, let me know if you've seen this guy around. And let me know what you think about this story.
I feel like that's an extreme. And I'm thinking, like, couldn't bro just, like, realistically just take it off? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I feel like rehab might have been a better solution than that. But if that works for you, then I guess it works. He's only got to do it for probably like a year or 6 months.
Weird facts you need to know about. If you're coughing uncontrollably, just raise your hands above your shoulder and it will stop. Did you know that TikTok doesn't let you type Area 51? When crossing the street at night, turn on your phone's flashlight and point it toward oncoming traffic. If you think you're being followed, turn right 4 times, since you'll get to the same place they shouldn't be following you anymore. If they do, you might be in trouble. Don't walk down the stairs with hands in your pockets. If you type your big forehead, you get a warning. Blue color attracts mosquitoes and 2 times more than any other. Strawberries can also be white and yellow. Some even can taste like pineapples. You can't unalive yourself by holding your breath. If you search these coordinates on Google Maps, you will find a man dragging a body. Follow for more.
If you're someone like me and you religiously wear black, definitely keep your phone flashlight on when you're crossing traffic at night. Trust me, it will definitely save your life. Or if you're walking on the sidewalk, because some people don't know how to drive.
Nobody in the entire world can visit this island. Okay, so majority of Americans don't know about the Forbidden Island in Hawaii that is owned by one single family and nobody could visit. The island is called Niihau and it's extremely different from anything else in the United States. There is only a population of 70 people and they have no access to paved roads, telephone service, no running water, and the majority of the island lives off welfare checks from the US government. And with such harsh living conditions, it makes you wonder why anybody would even live on this island. And the real question is, if there's nothing to hide here, why can't anybody visit? Well, this rule that doesn't allow any outsiders onto the island was actually written into the agreement by the natives when they sold it to the Robinson family, all the way back in 1864. The Robinson family bought the island for $10,000 in gold, which is $325,000 today. And the crazy thing is that this family still owns the island. The Robinsons are also very focused on preserving the Hawaiian culture on this island, that the natives did, so they go to church every Sunday, banned long hair for men, and kept the official Hawaiian language. But my whole opinion on this island is that if nobody can visit there and there's only 70 people on it, there's gotta be some crazy stuff going on there, right? There's just no way these 70 people are just completely normal living on this isolated island that nobody could visit. Let me know your thoughts on this, and also let me know if you've ever heard of this.
I wonder if the creators of Niihau Kailan made the name off of that island.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. There's a 1 in 3 chance police will never identify your killer if you were murdered in the United States. If the sun exploded now, you wouldn't know about it for another 8 minutes. 20% of children report hearing voices. There are 40 supervolcanoes around the world capable of claiming 1 billion lives. And we are about 24,000 years overdue for an eruption. The air you breathe in train stations is 15% human skin. There are over 200 dead bodies on top of Mount Everest, because retrieving them is such a risk. They serve as markers for other hikers. When you die, your house cat is going to want to eat you. Speaking of pets, dogs like squeaky toys because they mimic the screams of their prey. Yeah, there's a lot more. Like for part 2.
Morbid facts about Mike Tyson, Part 2. While visiting a zoo in the late 1980s, Tyson noticed an alpha silverback gorilla bullying all the others. He offered the zookeeper 10 grand to open the gorilla cage so that he could go in there and smash that silverback's snot box. Luckily for the gorilla, the worker declined the offer. Here's a 1997 photo of Las Vegas police facing Mike Tyson after he'd just bitten off the ear of Evander Holyfield. Tyson claimed he was in a primal blacked out state and literally wanted to kill his opponent. Mike had 6 biological children, but his little girl Exodus tragically died when she was only 4 years old. In 2009, Exodus was playing on a treadmill when she accidentally died from strangulation after falling and catching her neck on a power cord. 3 years after signing with Don King, Tyson didn't even know that he had a fan club. When he finally went there, he found a letter from a woman asking if Tyson could call her dying little boy. Tyson immediately called, hung up, cursed out Don King, then started to cry. He said that the call was 1 year too late.
Dang, Tyson, yeah, bro's been through so much trauma, man. Still thinking about that Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight to this day. It's been like damn near 2 weeks. I'm literally upset as hell that he got embarrassed like that. I don't really know if this is true, but I've been seeing a lot of things online about Mike Tyson and Jake Paul both getting their boxing license revoked for 24 days, I heard. Because of the speculation that it might have been scripted or fake or, you know what I'm saying, something going on in the background. But I heard that they potentially got their license suspended for a month.
You or someone that you know has small children, please watch this video until the end because it could save their life. Basically, Boppy baby pillows are being recalled after suffocating 8 children to their end. What happened was that these 8 children were laid down to sleep on these pillows and woke up lifeless. The recall includes the original, preferred, and Pottery Barn Kids Boppy baby pillows, and if you own any of these, you can take them to a local store for a refund. These are being recalled all the way back from 2004 to September of this year, so if you own any of these from any of those years, you might be at risk. So please never put any babies or young children to sleep in any of these, and if you know anyone with young children, please send them this video so they don't miss this life-saving information.
News that will give you hope. This woman swept out to sea while at the beach was rescued after 37 hours of drifting over 50 miles in an inflatable swim ring. Overdoses have decreased for the first time in over 5 years. This stranger saved a 4-year-old from a flying puck at a hockey game. Every country has now banned the use of leaded gasoline in cars, with Algeria being the last one a couple years ago. Bruno was able to get a fresh start and a new life after 473 days in a shelter. A study of over 2 million people found that eating cheese is healthy for aging because of the lower stress that you experience in life. The amount of sugar consumed by kids in the United Kingdom halved in 1 year after a sugar tax was introduced. Scientists have developed a glowing dye that sticks to cancer cells, which helps scientists prevent cancer from coming back. This nearly extinct pupfish has hit a 25-year high with their population. There are less than 200 of them in one single cave in the Mojave Desert of Nevada.
You know what's funny about that sugar tax? I'm sitting here thinking like, yeah, it's cool, you know what I'm saying, the tax on sugar, but they probably replaced it with artificial sugars like high fructose corn syrup and all that garbage, I swear to God.
Here are 3 real ways to survive Ohio. The land of Ohio is a mysterious pocket dimension located within the continental United States that is widely regarded as being one of the most dangerous places known to man. With that being said, the easiest way to guarantee your survival of this state is to simply avoid visiting it altogether. This should be a relatively easy task since no one actually lives in Ohio. Remember, if you think you have family or friends to visit there, that's just the demons whispering in your ear, and those thoughts should be ignored entirely. Secondly, if you do somehow wind up in this desolate place, remember to ignore the locals at all costs. Their lonely state might inspire you to take pity on them and engage them in conversation, but be warned, if you speak to them, you will become as they are. Finally, above all else, you'll need to try and keep moving at all times in one direction. Time and space work differently in the state of Ohio, and it may feel like you've been walking in circles for hours or even days. But remember, every step that you take is a step closer to freedom. Leave a comment if you're enjoying this series, and if you know anyone from Ohio, tag them. It might help them escape.
That makes sense. You know who's from Ohio? The Paul brothers. So that makes sense. We've just been stuck in a schizophrenic episode our whole lives, and none of it actually is real.
Did you know that Art the Clown played the Grinch in a horror movie? Yes, there is a horror slasher version of the Grinch, and it's called The Mean One. The story follows Cindy Lou Who after the Grinch kills her parents, and she grows up and she decides that she's gonna make it her life's mission to kidnap the Grinch and to kill him for what he did to her. And Art the Clown himself, David Howard Thornton, plays the horror version of the Grinch, the mean one, and he brings so much personality to the character even through all of the paint and prosthetics. Like, look at these cool shot comparisons. This is the original Grinch, and here we have the horror version of the Grinch. The Mean One is definitely considered a horror comedy, so keep that in mind if you choose to watch it. It's also extremely bloody and extremely silly, which I feel like you would expect. My favorite part of the movie is when Cindy Lou Who, as a child, is being interviewed by cops to try to get an idea of what this guy looks like. The sketch artist draws the little girl's description and then in all seriousness is like, "Sweetie, is this what he looked like?" It's really funny that David Howard Thornton has gotten to play a horror version of Santa as Art the Clown, and he's also gotten to be a horror version of the Grinch. Pretty cool.
Why you should always respect Mother Nature.
You should, of course, never do what this guy did in that video, and viewer discretion advised for this one because there is no happy ending here. The man in the video that I showed you is 28-year-old Jacob Cockle. Jacob's passion was surfing and pretty much anything ocean-related, so he felt like the water was his element. This is likely why Jacob thought he would be able to best a whirlpool when it came to swimming by it. Initially, when Jacob jumped into the whirlpool, nothing went wrong. There were about 28 minutes of footage of him floating around on top, and this is because he had the safety of a wetsuit. Wetsuits trap a lot of air, they're very buoyant, and they're made out of neoprene. This particular whirlpool was not strong enough to take Jacob down when he's floating on the surface. However, Jacob made a grave mistake. At one point or another, Jacob decided that it would be a good idea to dive underwater to get more footage. This caused the buoyancy of his suit to drop, and the whirlpool became strong enough and sucked him down. Jacob was unfortunately not able to escape from the whirlpool's grasp.
Photos with disturbing backstories.
kids, you still believe about Canada. Canadians see snow year-round. Well, the truth is that though the winters can be harsh, most of the country's population experiences summers that can make a Californian sweat. Most Canadians live near the Canada-US border and thus experience similar weather to what you'd expect in places like Boston or New York. Toronto is the capital of Canada. Well, Toronto does have the largest population and is probably the most famous Canadian city, but it's actually Ottawa, another Ontario city that's the capital. As the center of political power, Queen Victoria chose Ottawa to be Canada's capital on December 31st, 1857. It was determined that with its location being on the border between Canada East and Canada West, its excellent defensive position and its access to two different rivers to cross the country in either direction, Ottawa was the perfect city for the title.
Skinwalker caught on camera.
Please pardon the interruption. At this time, we are going to ask that students and staff proceed to conduct an internal lockdown. I repeat, this is not a drill. Please proceed to internal lockdown. 911 has been called. Remain in internal lockdown until instructed otherwise by a uniformed officer.
Okay, guys, I need everybody right away. Back corner and down. Hey. No cell phones?
Get as close to the wall as you can. Crowd it together. Marcus, get this way. Get this way. Get away from the window. Davis, hurry up. Get away from the window. Press up with these desks. Hurry up. Guys, grab these desks.
I mean, I don't know if I was supposed to see a skinwalker, but I didn't see any skinwalker. And not only that, it's like, if we're going through a lockdown, why is there cameras recording the lockdown? That's not a drill, apparently. That not a drill phrase when you're at school is so scary because you're like, dude, why am I potentially about to die in school somewhere I don't even really want to be? Like, come on, bro. I could have just skipped and be good.
Feminine things that were originally made for men. In Persia, men wore high heels to protect their feet. Then the Europeans looked and said, let's use them too, but they did it to show that they were rich, powerful, and masculine. In their culture, the higher the heel, the more masculine you were. Bags were also made exclusively for men. This is the oldest bag ever found made for men. It is entirely decorated with dog teeth because that was the fashion of the time. A system very similar to the disposable pads we have today was originally used in World War I to stop soldiers from bleeding. That's when a nurse noticed and thought, we can put this in our underwear and we no longer need to use rags as pads. Skirts were originally worn by men throughout the history of the world.
A killer clown was just released from prison in Florida. This case dates back to May 26, 1990, when 40-year-old Marlene Warren opened her front door. In front of her was a clown holding balloons and a basket of flowers. Marlene stated, "How nice," before the clown fatally shot her in the mouth, then calmly walked away. Authorities suspected 26-year-old Sheila Keene for years, who was having an affair with the victim's husband, Michael. But unfortunately, there wasn't enough evidence to convict her. 12 years later, Michael and Sheila wed in Las Vegas, moved to Tennessee, and started running this burger joint called the Purple Cow. They lived happily as if nothing happened, and Sheila even had the audacity to dress up as a clown one year. But in 2014, Florida authorities received a grant that allowed them to reopen the case. Advances in DNA technology allowed them to test a brown hair at the crime scene. It belonged to Sheila Keene, who was finally arrested in 2017 and pleaded not guilty. But after 7 years in jail, prosecutors gave her a deal in April of 2023. In exchange for pleading guilty to second-degree murder, she received a 12-year sentence. A Florida law allowed credit for good behavior, and that is why she was released on November 2nd of this year.
Here's a test to see if you or someone you know has thalassophobia. Thalassophobia is the fear of deep or open water. Starting off at level 1, we have this image, and if you look at the baby's feet, you can see there's nothing. And that's what freaks people out, the fact that you can't see anything but feel like there's something watching you from below. If this freaked you out, don't watch the rest, because level 2 is even worse. Level 2, we have a person falling into a huge open body of water. And to make it worse, there's some sort of squid-like creature right in the corner. And level 3, we have the worst one yet. A person floating above a huge snake-like creature that we have no idea how big it is. And if you made it this far, congrats. Make sure you send this to a friend to see if they can pass the test and hit the follow button for more.
If I'm being honest, I don't have that phobia, but who wouldn't be freaked out by that? You see someone floating and you see a snake, a huge snake under them. You're telling me you see that, you're going to be like, okay, that's cool. Like, obviously you're gonna freak out. I feel like the first one was a little bit more scary than the other ones. I felt like the other ones were like kind of fake.
Maps that will change the way you see the world. This map shows if your county has a McDonald's or not. If you're in a red county on this map, then you do not have a McDonald's, and there are 793 counties without them. This map shows the average weekly grocery bill across each state in the United States. Wisconsin has the lowest because Midwest states have the most farming around them. Hawaii and Alaska are the highest because of their isolation from the mainland food production. This map shows how fertility rates have decreased across the entire United States over the last 20 years. Louisiana had a tiny 0.3% decrease, while Utah had an over 30% decrease in fertility. This map shows the most common transportation methods in the United States to get to work. Most people in the United States are in a green county where it is driving alone. Orange counties are where people walk the most, yellow counties are where people take taxis or motorcycles more, and the red counties are public transportation counties, which is just San Francisco and New York City.
I was about to say that because like I go to the city sometimes and the city is just straight public transportation. So I was like, it's probably like the city in one other place, and it really was the city in one other place. So it's hilarious.
Everybody's talking about this new horror movie. It's awesome. Let's watch. I've been watching tonight this movie and it's so scary, I promise.
This is a serial killer you haven't heard of that has more victims than Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, and Jeffrey Dahmer combined. The Sunday Morning Slasher. Carl Eugene Watts targeted mostly young, attractive women walking alone in the dark. He would stab, slash, strangle, and drown them. Watts told a psychiatrist that they had evil eyes, and it wasn't enough to murder these women, he had to kill their spirits too, by burning personal items or tossing them in a sewer. His first victim was 19-year-old Gloria Steele, a mother and college student who was stabbed 33 times in her apartment. Michigan authorities knew he was responsible for dozens of murders, but they never had enough evidence to convict him. In 1982, Watts fled to Texas and resumed his murders, killing at least 12 more, including the youngest victim, 14-year-old Emily Lacroix. Now let's get to the moment he was finally caught. On May 23, 1982, Carl Watts choked Lori Lister until she was unconscious, then dragged her up the apartment steps. He used her keys to open the door and came face to face with Lori's roommate, Melinda Aguilar. Melinda was choked by Carl Watts as well, but this time she pretended to black out. He bound her hands behind her back and put her in a separate bedroom, while he filled up a bathtub where he planned to drown Lori Lister. With her hands still bound behind her back, Melinda quietly locked the bedroom door and proceeded to jump off a second-story balcony, where she yelled at a woman who was drinking coffee outside to call police. Unfortunately, Texas prosecutors offered immunity to Watts for the 13 murders he confessed to, in exchange for a 60-year sentence. Oddly enough, he was almost released from prison in 2006, but Michigan authorities were able to convict him of 2 murders before that could happen, and he died in prison in 2007 from prostate cancer.
Creepy facts that'll give you nightmares. When anglerfish mate, the male literally fuses itself into the female and the two live together as one fish for the rest of their lives. I'm kinda concerned as to how we know this, but if you feed a human body to pigs, they eat every last bit of it. There's a place near Mexico City called the Island of the Dolls. This place is home to thousands of dolls that are there to honor a girl who drowned in the 1950s. Many people say that this place is one of the most haunted places on Earth. And finally, this is Mike the Chicken. After Mike's head got chopped off, he somehow managed to live a full 1.5 years headless.
It's actually very common knowledge that pigs eat everything, which is scary. That's why pork meat, you gotta know who you get that meat from, man. Because what they eat is what we eat, because we eat them. So if you're getting your pork or your pig meat from someone that's suspicious, just be careful. Because you don't want to eat what they ate, if you know what I'm trying to say.
You know that saying, history's bound to repeat itself? Well, it looks like we have another Diddy, but he was the CEO of Abercrombie. I have not done a serious breakdown of people in a long time, so here you go. Now, when controversy strikes something like Diddy, you have to look at the people he surrounds himself with. Now, Diddy's label is Bad Boy Records. Who is the co-founder and mentor of Diddy? Clive Davis. I've talked about him on other people's podcasts before. But this guy is not the focal point of the video. I'm just drawing an illustration that what Diddy did probably came from this dude. The only reason I'm saying that is because this man mentored him into the industry. This man discovered him. But we came here to talk about Mike Jeffries. So what can we find on Mike Jeffries? Who does he surround himself with? Why did he get that facelift? And what can we learn? Now, he was recently arrested for human trafficking. Like I said, he was hosting Diddy parties in a way, just kind of his own thing. Maybe they're connected, I don't know. But what I do know is this guy right here did not have the career he should have had to be qualified for being CEO of Abercrombie. Just look at his Wikipedia. Why is this important? Now that's an easy one. A guy named Les Wexner hired Mr. Jeffries to reinvigorate the brand, bring Abercrombie, to the focal point of people's mind, sexualized marketing. So now you're sitting here going, okay, who the hell is Les Wexner? Let me educate you. He was the primary client of He Who Shall Not Be Named, and he trusted this man so much he granted him power of attorney. It's kind of funny when you look at this stuff and realize how many coincidences there are in this world, and it's nothing but a coincidence. But isn't that funny? And when I speak on coincidences, this is what I mean. These people are just connected in ways that they shouldn't be, but there's nothing suspicious going on. They're just at the same place at the same time. And I mean, this world is full of coincidences. Look at someone like Ashton Kutcher. Ashton Kutcher is the epitome of in the same place at the same time. I mean, he's connected to this Diddy lawsuit in one way or another. You can see it in the court documents, but the guy's innocent. Isn't it also funny that he runs a company dedicated to child trafficking prevention? This guy is out there trying to make the world better. Or even looking at the people that have been surrounded in this controversy their whole lives and are just totally innocent. Like this poor guy, he's part of one of the wealthiest families in America and he's next to this girl. It's just timing, it's just a photo, nothing should be suspicious. The world is full of coincidences. And it's funny, the same guy's in this picture too. What a coincidence. And I mean, there's the girl again from that first picture. She seems like she's everywhere. Terrible timing for her. Let's look at some more. Oh my god, dude, she's even in pictures with Paris Hilton. Oh my god, and Eminem. What are the chances? I mean, even Britney Spears right there. She's just in photos. That's all there is to it. It's nothing weird. She's just in the pictures. And like I said with this one, it's just funny timing. I don't know who that random guy is that I've definitely never seen before anywhere, especially on the TV. She's just everywhere. That's how it is. Now, all I'm saying is some people are just prone to being on the camera, and when you have people in the spotlight like this for doing things wrong, maybe you should look at, I don't know, who else is in the camera with them. You can find some very funny coincidences. Nothing more, nothing less. It's just a coincidence. Here's another example of what I mean. It's just a coincidence. It's not like birds of a feather flock together. They're just together in a photo. Here's a perfect example. That's Drake, a man who's never done anything wrong and never been accused of doing anything wrong. In fact, his whole life, he's never done a single thing wrong. Here's him with a very questionable being. You can look in the comments. I'm not going to say it. Anyways, I just came here to say that the world is full of crazy coincidences, and none of it means anything at all, and you should definitely never think about these coincidences, because again, there's nothing to it at all. Anyways, I love you guys, and thank you.
Yo, he was being so sarcastic for no reason, but I heard that Abercrombie Finch dude, he did some crazy stuff. He was doing like, I don't even know if I can say that on YouTube. I'm just gonna say a lot of the celebrities that we know, they did some crazy stuff to get into the industry.
Facts I bet you didn't know, part 1. Your lips and anus are connected by the same tube. 90% of serial killers choose their victims by sexual desire. Your organs move freely around your body. Crows used to follow armies to feed on dead bodies. Human sacrifice was a real thing in Aztec Mexico.
I thought we all learned that in school about the Aztecs, that they used to do human sacrifices. I thought that wasn't new.
Scariest mythical creatures from around the world, part 2. The Jersey Devil. The Jersey Devil is a legendary creature found in Pine Brain, South Jersey. It is known to look exactly like a giant flying goat, having an extremely long neck, massive wings, extremely short legs, and of course a tail as sharp as a sword. Don't forget to like and follow for a part 3.
Disturbing facts that will ruin your childhood, part 2. This little girl here is Judith Barcy. She played Ducky in Land Before Time. She also played Anne Marie in All Dogs Go to Heaven. In 1988, she was shot in the head by her own father. He also did the same thing to her mother. After that, he doused the bodies in gasoline, then proceeded to set them on fire. He then shot himself in the head, and that's how the story ends. Her gravestone says yup yup yup, which is a quote from her character in the Land Before Time movies.
Mythical creatures caught on camera. Unicorn. Fairy. taken. Mermaid. Phoenix.
I'm thinking, couldn't I just shove a horn in like a horse's head and just call it a unicorn on some mad scientist shit?
Scary facts you didn't know were real, part 4. Most people agree that dying in your sleep is probably the best way to go. Peaceful, no signs of pain, no torture. Some say that an angel will pick you up and carry you to heaven while you're asleep. But sometimes angels can be clumsy and they can drop you. Remember the times you've been falling in your sleep and then you just randomly wake up? Makes sense to the whole hell on earth thing. Did you know that after sitting in a dimly lit room for 10 minutes, your brain will get so bored that it will literally start scaring you? Monsters in your reflection, your brain just completely playing tricks on you. This causes you to see imagery like Bloody Mary. That's why people do the Bloody Mary challenge in a completely pitch black room. And it doesn't happen right away because it's your brain literally playing tricks on you. Once upon a time, legends say that a little girl drowned in a canal, completely surrounded by an uninhabited island in Mexico. Today, some are even hung by trees. Now the area is nicknamed the Island of Dolls. That's f***ing scary. A little girl drowned there, people have killed there. Now it's called the Island of Dolls. I'll definitely pass on that one. Like and follow for more facts.
The Most Insane Rulers in History, Part 2. Ivan IV, aka Ivan the Terrible, was Tsar of Russia between 1547 and 1548. Abuse as a child gave way to mental illness as an adult, and Ivan began torturing small animals. In 1544, at only 14, he seized control of Russia by feeding the head of the government to a pack of dogs. He then began massacring his own people and even killed his oldest son himself. He would apologize publicly for his cruel actions and then immediately turn around and do something even worse. Prince Sado lived in Korea between 1735 and 1762. After being sick with measles at 17, he began acting violently, abusing his servants and attacking women. He began murdering on a whim and even began stalking his own sister, which was the point that the king had enough. To prevent the prince from spreading any more terror, the king had him locked in a rice chest where he spent 8 days until he eventually died.
He say a rice chest? You know how many people could have ate that rice back in the day? Honestly, that guy deserved it. What did he do? Hurt his own son and all that? Hell nah, dude. Get that guy out of here.
This is a creepy story about the children on the bus. One night a man was on a bus on his way home from work. He thought he was the only person on the bus until he heard children voices coming from behind him. He was listening to their conversation and was very interested. The two young boys were talking about a ghost story. They were saying, and if you turn around, the ghost will snatch you away and carry you to the underworld. The man recognized the boy's voice. He often seen the kids on the same bus on his way home from work every day. They attended a school nearby. Then the other boy was saying, "That's easy then. All you have to do is make sure you don't turn around." "Yeah," said the first boy. "But the thing is, you can't help but turn around. The ghost will try all sorts of tricks to make you turn around." The man then realized they were getting close to their stop. However, it looked like they didn't notice. When the bus stopped, the kids were still talking. The man thought he should warn them that they're gonna miss their stop, so he turned around to tell them. The man was never seen again.
I'm Gonna Ruin Your Childhood, Part 1. The original Wizard of Oz movie is actually considered to be cursed because of all the horrific things that happened during filming. The main character, Dorothy, who was played by Judy Garland, was actually drugged and molested during filming. She was given adrenaline shots so that she could stay up more than 48 hours at a time. And there are reports that she was sexually assaulted by the Munchkin actors and studio executives. The actress who played the Wicked Witch got horrifically burned on set. During the scene where the witch escapes Munchkinland in a plume of smoke, the pyrotechnic team set off the explosion a little too early. It caused the witch's broom, hat, and makeup to catch on fire. The medics had to rub alcohol all over the burns to remove the makeup, which was extremely painful. And the snow that you see in the movie was actually a lethal chemical called asbesto, which causes cancer.
This is the worst thing that ever happened at a concert. In 2003, the band Great White was performing live when pyrotechnics went off as planned. But within moments, everything took a horrifying turn. Flames erupted as the foam on the stage and walls caught fire, spreading faster than anyone could react. While the band managed to escape through the back exits, hundreds of audience members were left in chaos, desperately trying to find their way out. Thick smoke quickly filled the venue and people scrambled toward the front entrance, creating a wall of bodies as they clambered over each other in a desperate bid to survive. In the video of the incident, you can see people screaming and getting crushed to death. The situation spiraled as people became trapped, some crushed under the weight of others, and survivors described the scenes of half-burned victims being pulled out from the flames. Outside in the snow, survivors tried to help by rubbing snow onto the burned. But the devastation was immense. By the end, 100 people had tragically lost their lives, and over 200 were injured in one of the most heartbreaking concert disasters in history.
This skull was found inside the wall of a house in Illinois, and it turns out that it belonged to a woman that passed away more than 150 years ago. In 1978, James Skinner was doing renovations on his home when he came across a skull behind the wall. He called police and they took the skull to further investigate. They knew it belonged to a woman, but could not identify who this person was until recently. In February 2024, with the help of genetic genealogy, they finally determined that the skull belonged to a 17-year-old woman named Esther Granger. Esther was born on October 6, 1848 in Indiana, and at 16 she got married, then pregnant, but passed away from complications after giving birth to her daughter in 1866. She was buried in a grave in Illinois, and her daughter was named after her. Now you're probably wondering, how in the world did Esther's skull randomly appear inside this man's wall in a completely different state? Well, even though investigators are not 100% certain, their theory is that Esther was a victim of grave robbing. Grave robbing is when someone digs up a grave and takes the body of a deceased person to often sell them to medical schools for research purposes. This was pretty common in that era since it was very profitable and there was a high demand for research and education. After searching for family related to Esther, they found a man named Wayne, who's also a retired police officer in Portland, and he happens to be Esther's great-great-grandson.
I'm not gonna lie, grave robbing has to be one of the craziest things ever, bro. Behind necrophiliacs, that's even crazier.
This is a creepy story about the stare. A girl was on a subway late at night when she noticed a woman staring at her intensely. The woman was sitting between two old men. The girl kept looking away, but the woman staring never broke eye contact. It started to freak the girl out. At the next stop, a tall man in a trench coat boarded. He sat down right next to the girl. The woman who was staring paid no attention to the man who just boarded and just kept staring at the girl. Now this really creeped out the girl. The two men that the woman was sitting between never once looked in her direction. The girl then pretended not to notice, but each time she looked, the woman was still staring at her. At the next stop, the man in the trench coat got up to leave when suddenly he grabbed the girl's arm and dragged her out of the subway. The doors shut and the subway took off. The girl then started screaming for help, but then the man said, "Calm down. I just saved your life. I didn't mean to scare you, but I had to get you off that subway." The woman that was staring at you was dead, and the two men beside her were holding her up.
Family was recording their reunion, having dinner, when they accidentally captured something disturbing outside. User Salguero was with his family at Argentina's Matias Hotel, enjoying a poolside dinner, when he decided to film the moment. As the family's enjoying their dinner, little did they know something horrifying would be captured. As he pans the camera across the table, he sees this eerie pale person just standing there in the dark woods. Now, this could be just another guest staying at the hotel, but after zooming in, things get weirder. The figure doesn't seem to have any facial features, just a black mouth opening as the man zooms in on it. Not wanting to find out who or what this could be, the family finished their dinner and rushed back to their room. Salguero mentions he has no idea if what he saw that night was even human.
Yo, what's up? Here's some scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know. Part 45. Egyptian mummies would still be considered one of the rarest artifacts to find up to date, if medieval Europeans hadn't consumed a majority of the dead mummies' bodies, because they believed back then that if you consumed embalmed dead bodies, that it would actually heal your ailments. Please do not try this next one, but it is actually possible that you can convince somebody who has no history of mental illness in their family that they have a severe mental illness in roughly only a week. Please do not try to convince your brother that he has schizophrenia. That would not be a good idea, and it would not end up well. Throughout the filming of The Exorcist, you hear the possessed girl let out multiple demonic screams, but little did you know that those screams weren't humanly possible, and they were actually the sounds of squealing pigs who were being taken to a slaughterhouse. And last but certainly not least, it is said the people who practice the religion of Zoroastrianism actually leave dead bodies up in towers so that vultures can consume their remains. To us it may seem a little strange, but to them it's actually a sign of respect. But when I die, please don't put my body in a tower so I can be eaten by vultures. It's just not my thing.
Honestly, bro, I am completely with you with that. I do not want to be eaten by vultures. I'm good.
These parents essayed their 15-year-old daughter because they claimed that it was safer than her doing it with someone else. Just a warning that this story is very disturbing, but it does need to be talked about. In March of this year, a 15-year-old girl had called police that her stepfather had been essaying her for the last year and a half. She also told them that her mother was aware of this and let it happen. Police interviewed John and Shamika Hayes and they admitted to everything. They claimed that they thought it was safer for them to do that to their daughter instead of her doing it with some random stranger. This all started when the girl was 14 years old. Her mother had found her Snapchat and saw that she was Snapchatting strangers, and she assumed that her daughter was trying to meet up with them. This part is disgusting, but her parents bought her toys to show her how to use them on herself and them. Police arrested and charged the parents, and they are currently being held at the Utah County Jail without bail. It was revealed that Shamika and John Hayes were a part of an LDS church, and it seemed like that church was trying to protect their image. The state of Utah recently passed a law that clergy are no longer required to report a crime of child essay if they know about it. So let's say someone goes to church to confess and they're talking to the clergy that they essayed their child. That clergy does not have to report it. The church can also cover this up and control the media when these reports are given to authorities. These children are not being protected, and if they were to go to a church leader to tell them what was happening to them, they would basically tell them to forget about it and just forgive that person. If a child were to report to police that they were getting essayed by a church member, that specific church has laws to protect that person so their name doesn't get out there. I know that this case was probably very hard to listen to, but it's very important that this 15-year-old girl and many others get the justice that they deserve.
Nah, that case was crazy, man. Her family, I don't know what type of timing or drugs they're on, man, because that's insane.
I think this could be the strangest disappearance I have ever heard. This 19-year-old Jason Jolkowski, and in 2001 he was living at home in Omaha, Nebraska with his family, very normal life. And it was a summer day, June 13th, where something very disturbing took place right off his street. Jason wasn't supposed to work this day, but he got called into work, and it was a place called Fazoli's. It's kind of just like a fast casual Italian place, but the problem was he didn't have his car that day. He had no transportation. His manager who made a couple of calls, and he arranged for one of the co-workers to go and pick up Jason at the nearby high school. For context, it's a very short walk from his house. It's quite literally only a few blocks. Problem was, Jason never showed. He had somehow completely vanished during this walk. He only could have gone so many ways, so one of the most logical was that he was going to take Bedford. It was a street with a lot of foot traffic, so people assumed that somebody would have seen him. An alternate option where maybe he took a couple of back roads to get to the high school, but again, what's known is that he never made it, and no one has ever found what happened to him, and nobody saw or heard what went down. Look at
So, little known fact, 11 from Stranger Things was based solely off one person. Her name is Nina. She's a badass. I'll show a video that American researchers smuggled out of Russia of her just moving stuff with her mind. It's pretty unreal. Now, Nina joined the army at 14 and was driving tanks around for Russia, but later in her life figured out she could move stuff with her mind. She claims she got it from her mom. Now, this sent America for a trip and was the birthplace of one of my favorite CIA documents, Research in Human Paranormal Capabilities. Now, you would think with something like this, the CIA is going to look at it and go, that's absolutely crazy. They found it remarkably accurate. Now, these abilities some people seem to have are not just confined to moving things with your mind. Some people can see things when they're not there. Now, where it gets crazy is the CIA found out that Russia had very accurate plans and descriptions of their nuclear sites, military bases, CIA black sites, all kinds of crazy things. And when they looked into how the Soviets got this info, they got it from psychics. And that was the birthplace of remote viewing, seeing things when you're not there. America started researching it heavily. They even brought in just normal psychologists to try to get some hold on what was going on. What did the psychologists say? It's remarkably accurate. It's an evidence of a telepathical mental process that's not yet understood. And this lady Nina, the 11 from Stranger Things, they started testing her, not just with their eyes. They didn't just watch her move stuff. They hooked her up to machines, did all kinds of extensive things. And they found out that when she did these demonstrations of her abilities, everything in her body process sped up like crazy. Her heartbeat, brain activity, electromagnetic fields around her started pulsating in rhythm. I mean, her pulse went up to 240 beats per minute when she did this. The video covers all of it. I'll show you in just a second. But as America caught on to this, they thought there was really something to it. They had their own Americans doing this kind of thing too. And they started scouring historical records to see if this is a new thing with humans, or some of them have it, or if it's an innate ability that everybody has. And again, this is relevant because it's in the CIA file. They took this with weight, but in scouring history, they found a king that thought oracles were just full of it, just total BS. So he found 7 oracles and said, I want you guys to tell me exactly what I'm doing on this date and time, and then he left. Upon doing his weird task and returning, 6 of the 7 oracles were wrong, but one of them was right, and it's crazy because this is not something you could guess. The oracle told him exactly what he did. He cut up a tortoise and a lamb into pieces, put them in a brazen cauldron, and boiled them with a brass lid on top. That is exactly what the man was doing. And this was in 550 BC. That's the first case of remote viewing that's ever been seen. And of course, he used it to fight the Persians. Now, here's where the waters are going to get a bit muddied. This info is straight from the Soviets, and this was intercepted by the CIA. So some scientists put Nina, or 11, in a room, a controlled environment, and had her stop and start a frog's heart multiple times, just with her mind, and she was like 10 feet away. Now, yeah, if you take a frog's heart out of its body and suspend it in liquid, of course it's going to stop without, an electrical impulse. But she stopped it and then started it again, and demonstrated this multiple times. It also claims she lost 3 pounds doing this. But I know you came here to watch the video of her doing her stuff, so here you go.
Or PK. Ninel Kulagina is a Russian housewife who has this ability. These films of her demonstrating PK were made in a Russian hotel room and smuggled out of the country by American researchers. She gets the object moving with gestures of her hands or by fixating the object with nothing more than her eyes. Kulagina has been studied intensively for more than 10 years by Professor Sergeyev of Leningrad University, who has reported on her work. These films and demonstrations are subjects of unending controversy. Is she a sensitive or a charlatan? According to those present at these demonstrations, it sometimes takes Mrs. Kulagina 2 to 4 hours to rev up her supernormal powers. Her pulse races to 250 beats a minute. She loses up to 3 pounds after a demonstration of psychokinesis.
Dude, that is absolutely insane. That's honestly probably one of the craziest videos I've ever watched on this channel. And you know what's crazy? I believe it. I believe it. The reason why I believe it is because with a power like that, something like that, it's not going to just be like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Like, she's not going to master it. But you can tell that she's kind of like, really trying, bro. I mean, if it's fake, that's crazy. They got me. I'm not gonna lie. But like, I truly think that there might be something there with that. I'm not gonna lie. Let me know your thoughts about that video in the comments.
Thank you all for